Hi, and welcome to the Improved Garage YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking about using Kaizen foam to organize my toolboxes. So over the years I've collected a variety of different tools from different manufacturers. I have some Blue Point wrenches, I have some different snap-on tools, socket sets, extensions. There are some tools in here that are from Icon, which is the higher end Harbor Freight line. The trays that the tools come with are good from an organizational standpoint, but they sometimes end up with a lot of wasted space. Looking at like the socket set here, there's a bar at the bottom. So with some of my taller sockets, instead of laying them down, I stood them up using the Harbor Freight organizers. Some drawers like this are just kind of thrown together, and it ends up being a catch-all for a variety of tools. My Allens are what I'm going to try to start organizing today. Those trays have a lot of wasted space. I have a variety of manufacturers that have different tools. There's this Blue Point set that has a bunch of Allen bits in it as well. And then in the future I'll probably do some of my Torx. I have a set of SAEs as well that I'm going to try to combine with my metric Allens. Over here I have some of my pry bars and other panel removal tools, some extended screwdrivers, and this Blue Point set that I use. It's like kind of like a grab and go box. It's got a bunch of metric sockets in it and a small ratchet. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that drawer yet. Alright, so here's a drawer that I did the other day. You can see that I've got a bunch of wear screwdrivers in here with some snap-on screwdrivers. I picked up these wear screwdrivers from somebody on Obsessed Garage Marketplace. There's the electrical set as well as the standard wear screwdriver. So like there's number 1, number 2, number 3, and then small, medium, and large flatheads, all of the stubbies. But I've also got my snap-on ratcheting screwdrivers in here. I've got a long extension for this ratchet. My Cobalt, this is like a mini screwdriver for taking apart small pieces. Here's a right angle. It's like a ratcheting screwdriver. This goes into that silver handle. So I like the Kaizen foam because it allows different sets of tools to kind of coexist in the same drawer, and end up with some organization. So to start off, what we're going to do is we're going to take a tape measure here, and we're going to measure the drawer to see what size the Kaizen foam needs to be. In my case, my drawer is 22 1/4 by 19. So now the Kaizen foam comes in these sheets that are 2 feet by 4 feet. So what I'm doing is making my 24-inch side my 22 1/2, and then I'm making my my other side the 19, so that I end up with larger pieces of waste instead of little tiny things. So let's get this cut. We'll check our measurement one more time just to make sure that we're right. So I've got 19, and we'll just mark that here with our knife. Just put like a small cut at 19. 2 places. And then we can use a straight edge. I'm using a 2-foot level. And get this lined up on our marks. And then we'll just cut it with a knife. Gonna lightly at first. Then we'll do a second pass all the way through. Then we can kind of pick it up and bend it back and just cut all the way through. So this ends up being my waste piece, which is still, useful for something else in the future. And now we have to cut down our other side to the width of the drawer, which is 22 and a half, or 22 and a quarter. So make our marks. Grab our level. We can make our cut all the way through. And that's my throwaway piece. So you'll see both sides of this are kind of wavy. It's not perfect, but I just kind of put the wavier side down. And we can test fit it in a drawer. I have an empty drawer over here that I can kind of test fit everything into. So we can see that it's snug all the way around, which is pretty much just how I want it. So it's a good fit. So pull it out. So now we can start laying out some tools. I'm going to start with my SAE Allens. And the idea here is, just to make better use of where the space is wasted. So you might have to try a couple different positions and figure out what's going to fit the best with the tools that you're trying to lay out. So now, as you can see, I ended up with 2 empty drawers that I'm going to be able to consolidate into one. But looking at my tools, there are several things that are kind of overlapping that I don't really think that I need anymore. Like these Allen sets, for example. So now we have our finalized layout. You could see that I split up the bits from the box that I had into individual sections in between the Allens, and I was able to use some of that free space to just hold a lot more tool density. So I think that this is going to be my finalized layout, so I'll get the camera set up and then you can kind of watch me start to draw it and cut it out. So I picked up one of these silver Sharpies that is kind of like a paint pen. It's designed to write on black material. So what I'm doing is kind of outlining around the shape that I need. And then once I get it outlined, I can cut it out. When you're doing this, I think that it's important that you start at one corner and you kind of work your way out from that corner towards the other sides. As you're trimming pieces and laying them in the foam, sometimes you end up with spacing changing as you go through it. And if you jump around and you do a tool here and a tool there, then there's a possibility of you ending up with tools that don't fit or breaking through the foam into the next section that you're trying to cut out. So I've been starting in the left rear corner and just kind of working my way out from. I picked up an X-Acto knife with a #1 blade. The #1 blade is a good length because it doesn't go all the way through the 30 millimeter foam. The 30 millimeter foam is about 1 1/8 inches thick, and the #1 blade is about 1 inch thick. So it allows you to kind of hold the knife vertically, cut all the way down to the bottom, and you can still peel the foam and have a small layer left at the bottom. Also, the tiny tip on the X-Acto allows you to go around the corners and everything pretty easily. When I'm cutting these long straight pieces, I tend to just use a little bit of pressure and do it 1 or 2 swipes to get all the way to the bottom. When I'm going around the corners, then I use kind of this up and down motion, which allows me to get around the edges nicely without having to worry about tearing the foam as I rotate the blade. Once you've cut around the shape, you can kind of take your fingertips and reach through the spaces that you made with the knife and peel out the foam sections that you want to remove. I find that it's easier to do this in sections. So for something like one of these T-handled Allen wrenches, I'll make an oval for the head and then like a straight shot for the actual metal piece and take it out in a couple different pieces. When I'm done cutting it out, I need to remove this silver paint from the top of the Kaizen foam. So what I've been using is some CarPro Tar-X, which is a tar remover for cars, and like a paper towel. It's to spray the Tar-X on the paper towel, wipe it off, and the Sharpie comes right off of the foam, and it looks nice and clean when you're done. If the fit's a little tight, you can just trim it again with the knife. Ideally, you want it to be snug, but you don't want it to be difficult to take the tools in and out of it. And all this minor trimming takes extra time, but it's worth it in the end because you end up with a much nicer product that looks good and fits well, and you'll just be able to use it for all you can see here how the depth of the knife kind of makes it really easy to get all of the foam out, but not go all the way through the foam and still have a little bit left at the bottom. So I'm about a third of the way through this. Just been kind of systematically going one by one from the corner out, so that way I can, if I need to move this one a little bit, I can. Pretty much the same as the beginning. Do an outline. This. Pull that out. And I find it's easier to kind of use the knife like a saw when I'm going around corners, but otherwise you just kind of lightly drag it as long as you're not trying to cut through too much at once. This number 1 blade is really a good depth. You can kind of just go all the way around with it, and it doesn't go all the way through the bottom of the foam, so you have the option of kind of leaving a small layer of foam behind. Works really well. You'll see that I've just been kind of writing with the silver marker what size the Allens are that are next to them. So I'm cuts. So it's in. So that's the drawer finished, and I turned 2 drawers. I mean, with the exception of these couple hand tools, which realistically, you know, I probably could have fit here and there had I planned for them. You know, one there, whatever. But these, I really don't need them anymore. The T-handles work so well. So here we are, and our drawer's full, our drawer closes, our drawer opens, stuff doesn't move around. And that's kind of the best part about the whole foam situation, is that your stuff doesn't move around. Put it in, take it out, want to grab something, you just grab it, you're done. Just stick it back in there. Super nice. You know, I mean, I have this drawer over here that says knives on it, but it's got like stuff in it, and everything is always back there, because every time you put it, it slides back. You know, and then you end up with 6 inches of blank space up at the front, and all your stuff in the back, and anyway. So, you know, I spent quite a bit of time on this, probably 2 hours or so, maybe. But I think it looks good when you're done. So, when I'm done, I'll change my name tag here. And next I'll work on my Torx. So I know that I can turn this into less. Again, I'll get rid of this guy. These I'll find an alternative for, because I really don't like these. And I don't really know if there's a need to keep these anymore, because I have the Wera set. So I'll probably sell these off. T10, T15, T8, T20. So it looks like a T10 is my smallest Wera. So I'll probably order myself a T8, maybe a T6 if they make them from the Weras, and get rid of all that. That one's just empty. This one will stay as is. I did try using a drill bit to do a couple of like the 1/4-inch sockets, and it just wasn't clean, so I wouldn't recommend trying that. Just use a knife. Get the X-Acto. If you're using a 30mm, get the A blade, and you'll be good to go. I bought a 6-pack of blades, and really the blade is perfectly fine. My tip is wearing out a little bit on it. I've got some silver crap on it from the marker, because that marker's kind of like a paint marker, but a little bit of Tar-X just wipes that right off. But you know, I could probably do another one with that without an issue. So